Thank you very much, Julian, to talk to us today. And Julian is the associate professor of the Hong Kong UST in the social science education department, right? And I see the courses you taught about Hong Kong, exactly, about Hong Kong society. So I didn't know Julian before. I just typed the word Gweilo on the internet, and one of the first few articles that popped up Julian's one on Hong Kong Free Press. It talks about Gweilo. In fact, it talks about a lawsuit case in 2018. 2018, and it's about the term Gweilo. Maybe you still remember, or you maybe you are new to Hong Kong, you don't know. So maybe Julian, can you say a bit about that lawsuit case? What's that about?
Well, firstly, congratulations on a fantastic production.
Thank you.
And superb acting. It really was fantastic. There was a concern some years ago that somebody in the workplace was called a Gweilo by his boss. And this caused a tremendous discussion among Gweilos and non-Gweilos alike about whether this is an offensive and racist term. And I was asked to come to a radio talk show to discuss this. And all the Gweilos that called in were quite convinced that this wasn't racist at all. In fact, they rather enjoyed being called Gweilo. I'm happy to be called a Gweilo. I had a long think about this. I think there is a racist dimension to it, but I don't think it's racist against Gweilos. I think you have to ask yourself, what is a Gweilo? It literally means a white ghost or a white man. A Gweilo is, in Hong Kong, an expatriate. We don't consider them so much ethnic minorities or migrants or refugees, as was referenced in the play we just saw. A Gweilo is often someone who can be forgiven for having lived in Hong Kong for 30 years, but can barely string a word of Cantonese together. And often I feel a Gweilo is the person who's often automatically waved on by the security guards while other ethnic minorities are stopped and they have their IDs searched. As you pointed out, in Hong Kong there's a beer called Gweilo, there's a bar called Gweilo, there's now a play called Gweilo, and of course an autobiography. Gweilo, I think, is slightly less prestigious. The way people refer to Gweilo is sort of rather perhaps bossy females. I've heard that also used.
I think it's because of that word "poor," quite poor. Quite mui seems cute, and quite poor seems a bit more bossy. Yeah.
Well, it suddenly occurred to me that there are no beers or bars called bun mui, which is a rather derogatory term to describe migrant domestic workers, or cha, which is another derogatory word to describe South Asians. Gweilos getting drunk in bars are part of Hong Kong's entertainment district. Migrant domestic workers hanging out in Central on a muggy Sunday afternoon are often written up in the newspapers as kind of an eyesore and, sort of messing up the place, as how I see them described. So, as I see it, the term Gweilo, it's almost a compliment to a white person. But I worry a little bit that it is also a marker that maybe delineates them from the other so-called ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. And I don't know how other people feel about that or how other Gweilos feel about that. And I'd like to hear more.
Well, we'll have time to for the floor. Yes, I think. So, how about your own personal experience? Have you ever been called Gweilo?
Many times. And the reason I love this very charming memoir by Martin Booth so much is that the main character tries to do what I've seen many other Gweilos try to do. He tries to distinguish himself from the other Gweilos. In fact, he's trying not to be a Gweilo. I mean, he goes into the walled city, he learns Cantonese, he becomes friends with the criminals and all the characters in there, and he's a little bit embarrassed about his rather privileged background. He's in the novel, this comes through a little bit more. And I have to say, I found myself trying to do this myself, and I've seen it in other Gweilos. They want to go native, and they want to not be a Gweilo. But at the same time, they can never fully get rid of being a Gweilo. And I'm wondering if that's an experience that many of you have had. Now, some years ago, I did some research on Gweilo parents who wanted to enroll their children in local Cantonese schools because they wanted their children not to be Gweilo, and in other words, to speak Cantonese and to be part of the local community. And they did this in tremendously good faith. But like in the play, very few of them managed to pull this off. Very few parents managed to go all the way to the end. Because whenever the teachers saw their kids, all they could see was the Gweilo. Just like in the play just now, everybody wanted to touch his golden hair. He couldn't be, in the words of the play, blood brothers. They could never completely fit in. And I think this is an unfortunate part of Hong Kong's history, that what gives the Gweilo their privilege is also what restrains them and what restricts them. And they carry this Gweilo identity wherever they go. And it's tremendously difficult to get rid of it if one wanted to. And I don't know, maybe that resonates with some of the experiences that people have had also watching this play. But that's what I got out of the play. It's a very subtle observation about the status of what you might call white migrants in Hong Kong.
Thank you. So I'll open to the floor in a minute, but just give you a little bit detail about that lawsuit case. And at the end, it's not the one who filed the complaint did not succeed. Why? I remember it failed. Why in the court?
Yeah, I don't think it was held. No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to ask some more questions. I think after we talk to the audience in a minute. Yes. Okay. So do you have any questions to ask me, to ask Julian, or any comments? You are most welcome. 大家有冇啲咩問題咧？有冇咩意見？好歡迎大家。中間有一位朋友。
I'll ask in English. I saw the Street Mandarin last year. It was that adaptation of a memoir of 3 generations, whereas Gweilo was a memoir of 3 years, so it is more condensed. And it is especially a memoir of a child from his 8 years old to 10 years old. So it's presented like a fable, like a kind of a role-playing game of a properly 8 to 10 years old. So it is quite different from the tone of the book. So how did you prep the actor for his acting, his style? And because especially he's not a local, although he lived here, but Hong Kong or Cantonese is not his motherland or mother tongue or mother culture. So how did you prep the protagonist for this play? And second is that because this is the last book of Booth, he wrote this in his sickbed. So it is the book is filled with remembrance, regrets, and critique of his family and the different lifestyles between Hong Kong and England. So the book is completely and thoroughly soaked with some messages that he must understand much later in his life. But cleverly, this play situated or concentrated these thoughts into several later scenes. So I think this arrangement is very clever and I appreciate it very much. So how did you do it?
First of all, I must say I'm very lucky to have Mika with me. Well, he's really unique. Yes, he's not local. He's white, but because he's lived in Hong Kong for many years, since he grew up in Hong Kong, basically. So he's not completely fluent in Cantonese, but he did learn quick about Cantonese. So I say I'm very lucky to have him with me, and also that we adapted the book together. We read the book because I have collaborated in another play, Yellow Face. That's a translated play. That's about American ABC, about American-born Chinese, and it's written by a very famous playwright, David Henry Huang, the playwright of M. Butterfly, and he talks about his own experience about being an American-born Chinese, and in that play there's a character in his Caucasian in the on the look, but he's a Caucasian, but he pretends to be Chinese somehow. So it's a very wonderful character, and I found Mika to play that role, and then I realized that Mika he has got many talents. He can sing, he can write, he can compose, he can do a lot of other things. So and at that time I already had the idea of adapting this book into a drama, this memoir into a drama. So I told him, okay, so are you interested in joining this project? And we don't have a script. We have to create the script together by just looking at the book. So the process is we look at the book, we look at the memoir, and then we pick up some scenes, characters that we found interesting, and then we did improvisation on the characters, on the scene, and of course we have to find a through line, a story that can host together all these different characters, weakness, and yes, small incidents. So yes, I think it's not that I prepare the character, but we prepare. It's not that I prepare Mika for the character, but we prepare it together, I think. Yes. So any other comments, feedback? Yes, there's a gentleman over there.
Thanks. It's actually interesting because it really shows the time period. And it's interesting because my grandparents, who used to live next door to the wolves, who lived at the peak. And I'd always kind of envision this, and my parents had a book, All Cities of the World, and Hong Kong always fascinated me. And I've been here 15 years now. And what really interests me is that there's 3 types of Gweilos. There's the Gweilo that plans to go home. They're working for the big corporate. They're hanging in Wan Chai. They're really living the life here. They're on a junk boat on the weekends. They're having a really good time. Then we have the young people, and they never had this chance back when the book was written, because today they can come over here for a year or 2, study, or work in different areas, and this opens up. And then we have the third part, and we can have this back then. Back then, there was no mixed kids. You were white or you're Chinese. Today, these people are very much part of the community. And they probably don't see or speak to a white person for a week or a month. I saw more white people today in the same area than I see all the other times. And some of them speak Cantonese, some Jose Chun, not gonna happen. It just doesn't, I can't work it out. But they're very much a big part of the communities today. And there's no plans of going anywhere but Hong Kong. And Martin didn't have the chance, but I could kind of feel what he was feeling. And it's important that we understand that Gweilo is not just a different person. We are all the same. We all love our kids. We all have our families. And so thanks for bringing the play. And I'd love to see where the next generation would move on to.
Yes, thank you. Any more comments, feedback? Yes, please, this lady. there's a mic coming. Yes.
Thank you so much, and I enjoyed the show very, very much. And then especially I want to point out this, I enjoyed the last part, his singing. It's really excellent. And then unexpectedly, not only his performance, but also singing. It's great. I did tell him just now, and then I just want you as the production team to know it. And then I enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.
I believe most of them, the audience, they enjoyed this also.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, there's a gentleman over there.
Thank you for the performance. It was really enjoyable. I have a question to the panelists, which is, I think the meaning around Gweilo and the significance is because Hong Kong is one of the last bastions of empire. My question is, does this type of significance or the characteristic of Gweilo also appear in other previous colonies, such as Singapore or even some of the other colonies? Have you looked at other previous old colonies and how they developed, how the expats in those colonies, I'm sure there were many similar to Hong Kong. Are there any similarities apart from Hong Kong?
Very much so. Singapore also has an interesting distinction between expatriates and migrants. And the expatriates see themselves as being the more professional sort of workers with deserved of higher salaries. Certainly true in Singapore, and I've seen several academic papers written upon that as well. I'm not sure about India, but also I think, as you point out, the situation has changed for Gweilos throughout different periods of time. In fact, I understand that during colonial times, the colonial police were actually required to take Cantonese lessons and learn Chinese. And if you look at some of those old movies, like Love is a Many Splendid Thing and The World of Susie Wong, you do see Cantonese-speaking Gweilo police officers. And I would say now that the Gweilo, non-Gweilo distinction has become even greater in the sense that, of course, when children have the earlier domestic workers used to be from the mainland, and they spoke Chinese to the children. But now most of the domestic workers are from the Philippines and of course Indonesia, and they speak English to the children. So I think the level of Cantonese among Gweilos is actually declining compared to previous times, you know.
I think maybe more and more people know Mandarin instead of Cantonese.
Yeah, that's happening too.
Yes. And maybe 1 to 2 last comments or questions before I ask Julian some more questions. Is there any? Yeah, thank you. There's a lady at the back. 係嗰邊灰色衫上面灰色衫嗰位，唔該。
係，首先唔該晒胡導演嘅編排啦，都做得好好啦。咁好想知道咧，其實喺呢個演出裏面有邊一啲係真嘅，邊啲係你作㗎啦，同埋另外想知道即係嗰個男仔其實最後未有翻到去英國，定係其實好似佢個戲入邊最後講話佢其實留低咗喺香港咧？同埋頭先你咪講話部書而家個戲其實係部書嘅1/3或者1/4啦。咁可唔可以講多啲啲咁我哋吸引我哋去即係去再去買嗰本書咁樣咧？唔該晒。
唔係好似阿 sale 咁。So this audience member asked, well, so which part is real and which part? I think what she means real is which part is from the book and which part is made up by us. And most of them are from the book. We did make some, how to say, abridgment, I would say. Or we did, for example, like the character, Ju, we make her become the servant in the house. But in the book, it is another servant is in in the hotel there's a servant, a Jew, but in the house there's another servant. But well, because of the drama, we have to take this liberty to put the characters to make it into one character. So we do this kind of adjustment, I would say, but we did not change much. Well, you know the book, Julian. So I think you can tell for those who have read the book, you can tell that we didn't make much changes. In fact, we just adjust little things bit by bit, and we heighten a little bit the conflicts between Mother Joyce and the father Ken, and well, because of the drama, so we need to find a through line for the story, and so we find that in the book is not so. Martin has written about the temper of the father, but there's one or two scenes about the conflict between mother and father, but it's not that obvious. We make it a little bit more obvious in the play, yes. And yes, there's a lot of interesting, for example, like this time we have to, this time is already the third one of the display. We have done it in we did it first in 2016, and then we ran it in 2018. But at that time the running time is almost 2 hours, and then we find it's a little bit too demanding for both the audience and also the actor, for Mika. For him standing alone on the stage, sing and act for 2 hours is really too demanding, and so that we trim it down a bit. And one of the things we trim down, and I feel really sorry about that, is a character called. There's a whole scene about that character, Nagasaki Dream. He's a military officer in a British army officer but he was captured in the Second World War by the Japanese, and he became a slave, and so he was sent to Nagasaki, and he saw the atomic bomb in Nagasaki, so that's why he's got the nickname Nagasaki Jim. But then and he was released after the war, but he started to become a little bit crazy and became a pedophile, or maybe he was a pedophile in the beginning. But anyway, and and he lived in the hotel, in the Four Seas Hotel, and Martin was warned that he should not go near this guy, but of course, like the Kowloon War City, Martin will go, and then he got to know this Nagasaki Jim, and it's a bit like a little adventure. Of course, he was safe at the end, Martin. Yes, but well, because of the duration, I had to sacrifice this character in this one. But yeah, there are a lot of other interesting things like this. So I highly recommend you to look at the book. And about whether he comes back, I also have this question in my mind. But I think he came back for a while. I think after he's back to England, but I'm not sure at this. In fact, I'm not very sure at this moment. Well, to my best wishes, I hope he can come back. But I think it's also his wishes at the end. Well, before he died, he want to come back. Yeah. So yes, so thank you for coming. So one last question before we close today for Julian. So you have read the book, right, before you saw the play. So I know you have said something about this play. So how would you contrast or compare the play? Are you disappointed, or because the play is very, as I say, very interesting? Yeah.
It's been a while since I read the book, but I was quite thrilled with the play, and I love the way, I think the use of music is very effective in the play. Beautiful songs that really contribute towards the atmosphere and the emotions that the writer was trying to deliver. So I was thrilled by it, and again, I don't recall the conflict between. He doesn't talk much about his father in the book, but I thought that was a useful addition in the play, because the father is the perfect contrast to the son, isn't he? Because the son wants to go off to the walled city and learn Cantonese, and the father is against that completely. So I think that really is the perfect foil to bring out the two different types of Gweilo that the play tries to convey. You know.
Well, yeah, the scene between the conflict between Joyce and Ken is created by us, but is as Julian said, is much subtly written in the book. Yes,
Yeah.
we do have the feeling that Ken. I think there's some points in the book saying that Ken is very reluctant, or he really does not want to go native for him and his children. Yes. So and I in fact somehow I pity him, because I find in some way he's in the book he's quite lonely. In my feeling is there's a very interesting thing. In the process of creation, we did improvise a scene about his when he's drunk and then he went back home and he's all got bruised because he had played game with his friends in the bar, but it's a really silly game and he got hurt all over, and then he was drunk and then he was put, and then Joyce pushed him into the bathtub and then washed him, and I can feel this character is really lonely. Because he does not want to go native, he does not want to go into the local culture. Yes.
Right. If you read biographies of other expatriates who have come to Hong Kong, you often see gender plays quite a role as well, because I find that the women like LT2, right, they are much more likely to go native and to start projects in the local communities, while their husbands stay in the sort of colonial fold. So I think that's another interesting dimension to explore, you know.
Yes, it's really interesting to mix the gender issue into it.
You know,
well, maybe we can develop another play. Yeah. Yes, in fact, that's what when I talk with Mika, that's what I say. We are going to do a Gweilo 外傳. How to say 外傳?
It's like a spring, isn't it? Is that what?
A side edition of Gweilo. So
see.
we just focus on Ken, then maybe it's interesting. So yes, thank you very much for coming today. And I don't know whether Mika is still out there. So hope you enjoy the show. And yes, we have one last performance tomorrow. So please help us spread the news. Thank you for coming. And thank you, Julian, for talking to us. Thank you.